Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Thursday, December 18th, 2025, and I wish you a very, very, very happy National Roast Suckling Pig Day. On today's show, we get prepped for Ohio State against North Carolina. This is a huge matchup for the Buckeyes and the Tar Heels with a lot of star power in this game. So today, we will break down this matchup in its entirety. We'll go through the North Carolina background. We'll talk about their offense, their defense. Just one key to the game for Ohio State in this one. Before we get into some questions I've got as we get into a prediction to close out the show, I'll let you know where the BIP sees this game going, and then I will give my pick as well. Usually for games like these, and I look behind the scenes at the numbers, there's new listeners and watchers literally on every show. Usually for episodes like this, where it's a big game against a team like North Carolina, we get a bunch of new listeners and watchers as well. So please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or Apple, or anywhere else. Subscribe. It doesn't do anything other than make sure the show is there for you in case you need it during the holiday travels. If you're traveling by plane or automobile or even boat for your Christmas, and you need some extra listening in your ears, well, this can be that show for you, especially as Ohio State football kind of winds down for a little bit here before they play against the winner of Texas A&M and Miami, of course. This can be an option for you, and you know what? You might like it. You just might like it. So highly encourage that you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Give a 5-star review. Those 5-star reviews are highly valuable. Shout out the Nut House. Can't let them win. So please give a 5-star review to the show as well. And Views from the Shot podcast.substack.com. Do whatever is best for you. I don't care. But one of these two options is best. Go there and sign up, subscribe for completely free to get more Ohio State coverage. It is the only Ohio State basketball exclusive hub for written Ohio State content in the world. So highly recommend that you get there, or you can sign up for a paid subscription as well. Help support the show. And in return, you get a bunch of insider news. I've dropped a lot this week, so recommend you get there. All right. This is a big game for Ohio State going up against North Carolina in the CBS Sports Classic, 3 o'clock expected tip on CBS. That game being played in Atlanta, Georgia, so it's a neutral site game. I would assume there's going to be more North Carolina fans traveling than Ohio State, but hey, I could be shocked. Crazier things have happened. So, big game for the Buckeyes, pretty big game for the Tar Heels. Why this is a big game for Ohio State, though, as you look at the schedule in the non-conference, look, Pitt, they're not great. You already lost to them. Notre Dame, definitely not great, and you beat them by 1. And then you beat West Virginia, which is probably the most likely of the three to make a run into the NCAA tournament, not even make a run in the NCAA tournament, but just to get there. And you're hoping that West Virginia can make it for the sake of Ohio State's resume at this point. So you've got two more chances here for Ohio State in the non-conference. You've got North Carolina. Obviously, you've got Grambling State. And then you've got Virginia on Valentine's Day. Those are the final two big games here in the non-conference. Ohio State needs that marquee non-conference win on their resume, and it could be done here on Saturday against North Carolina. So it's a big-time matchup for Ohio State. And I also think it's big for Ohio State because you look at Bruce Thornton, one of the top scorers in college basketball, one of the top in assists, one of the top in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, everything he does for Ohio State. This is kind of the last hurrah for him. I don't know what else is going to be going on Saturday at 3 o'clock. I assume some eyes will be on Ole Miss and Tulane. And then by halftime, if we play our cards right here, Tulane's going to be down, 21-3 or something, if we play our cards right. And Ohio State can get some attention on them here as this game rolls along against the Tar Heels. And if that's the case, you can really allow Bruce Thornton, especially if he has a big game, to become a household name across all of college basketball. I think those who would listen to this show and follow Ohio State basketball closely probably know how good Bruce Thornton is, but the football fans and college basketball fans as a whole probably don't appreciate Bruce Thornton the way this fan base, the true fan base, does, because Ohio State just hasn't been good. They haven't made it to the NCAA tournament, so it's hard to appreciate him. This could be the opportunity here for Bruce Thornton, especially because this game played in Atlanta, where Bruce Thornton is kind of from, at least the area down there in Georgia. So you have that. You have national TV audience, a lot of implications on this game, two huge logos. This is going to be a big one for the Buckeyes. So let's break it down. North Carolina, 22nd in KenPom, 24th in Bart Torvik, and 16th in net. So as I looked at the net rankings, I assume North Carolina would at best be 20th or so, just based on the resume they put together so far. But they sit there at 16th. They're 10-1, so the wins obviously are helping them there. They beat Kansas early in the season. That was a Kansas that was still led by Darren Peterson. He was the highest scorer for the Jayhawks in that game, I think with 22 points. So he's obviously dealt with some hamstring injuries, and sounds like they might be shutting him down again. But that was a game where North Carolina beat Kansas, and Kansas had Darren Peterson throughout that game. So a good win for North Carolina. The first loss of the year for the Tar Heels came on Thanksgiving Day against Michigan State, 74-58. Why you would go up against NFL on Thanksgiving Day, I don't know. North Carolina, Michigan State gave it a try, and North Carolina was the losing team in that effort up there in East Lansing. And then in the other big marquee game that they've had so far this year, they knocked off Kentucky. That was a really, really tight game. And this was also during Kentucky's cold stretch. North Carolina wins that game kind of coming down to the wire. If that's a 41, 42-minute game, maybe Kentucky wins. It's hard to say, but it's a 40-minute game, so that's a moot point. The other Power 5 team that North Carolina has played this year is Georgetown. It's the lowest ranked net team that starts with George. I don't know how else to say it. That's not good. Who saw that coming? I don't know. Who's comparing George Mason and George Washington and Georgetown to all of them together during the preseason? But if you saw the town being ranked lower than Mason and Washington, shout out Mason and Washington, then good on you for that. But they are a Power 5 program. They are still not an impressive team at this point in the season, and have not been obviously for several years now at this point. But North Carolina did beat Georgetown. So if I've got an office trivia thing tomorrow that I just can't wait for. I just can't wait, and I hope the sarcasm is absolutely spilling out of my mouth and onto the microphone at this point. That's a good tidbit. It's not going to be on the trivia, I'm sure, but Georgetown is the lowest ranked team that starts with George in the net. All right, now that we've beat that dead horse, speaking of getting beat, I'm just going to let you know I'm very excited to be here with you today, and I'm very thankful for you. This morning, I slipped on some ice, and my trash can, as I was taking it out, fell on my leg and fell on my body. My right ankle, little tweak, knee hits the ground real hard, hip gets twisted a little bit, but I got back up and dusted myself off and took the trash can down to the end of the driveway so that the trash can provider, who I guess could sponsor the show, but they're not going to get name dropped here, so that they can take my trash away to a landfill. And it hurts, and it still hurts right now, but I'm here with you. So I don't know. Maybe that deserves a little extra kudos for me because I got crushed by a trash can today. Where are we here? Goodness. So even with the quality record that North Carolina sports, they're 2-1 against high quality teams, which we would say NCAA tournament teams. The rest, I guess, you can kind of throw out, just like you can throw out Ohio State's wins over Western Michigan, Appalachian State, and so on and so forth. They're playing without Seth Trimble right now. He scored 11.6 points per game last year for them, and he was 43% from the field while adding 5 rebounds per game, which is very good. As a guard, then this is the final high-profile game that North Carolina has on its schedule. They finished with East Carolina before starting ACC play on New Year's Eve against Florida State. So that's the background on North Carolina. They've won a bunch of games. They've got some good wins on their resume so far. They're looking to pick up another good win here against Ohio State. And Ohio State would hope for its sake that they would be a good win if they were to lose this game. Obviously, they're not hoping to lose this game. So the North Carolina offense, this is going to be a tough team. I'll start with that. I was very low on North Carolina coming into the season. I predicted Ohio State would win this game during the preseason my prediction show where I went through Ohio State's entire schedule as if there's any skill in predicting a 31 game schedule. I tried to do it. I had Ohio State winning this game because I wasn't that impressed with North Carolina's roster outside of Visar and outside of Caleb Wilson. I didn't know who I could trust on this roster, but it turns out they're playing pretty well. So, averaging 80.7 points per game. They've got 119.7 offensive rating so far this year, shooting at 47.2% from the field, only 32.7% from the three-point line, and they're 35th in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency right now. So as you look into their offense and really break it down, what do they do well? Well, the number one thing I would say, and if you've watched North Carolina at all this year, you've probably seen this. They are excellent off-ball movers. The action that they create, even if they've got a high pick and roll, the open side of the floor, the way that they use movement and back cuts and motion away from action to find guys open, it's really beautiful basketball to watch. You look at Caleb Wilson, the five-star who comes in at North Carolina. Obviously, Ohio State fans very familiar with him. Playing power forward this year for North Carolina. He's got a 93rd percentile assist rate so far this year at 17.4%. You look at the big, Henry Visar at center. He sits at 73rd percentile and assist rate at 11.5%. So you've got your bigs who are finding open guys, moving the ball well, finding guys at the best opportunistic times to score. And that's what you're getting out of your bigs. So if that's the case, that means this offense as a whole probably is pretty good at sharing the ball and finding ways to get open. They do a great job using kickouts, open side teammates to score, whether that be at the rim or the three-point line. They're okay, but especially in the mid-range and especially at the rim, that's where North Carolina can really eat up as a team. They've got a 59.7% assist rate this year. That puts them among the best in the nation. So what does that mean for Ohio State? Well, this Buckeye defense, they're going to have to keep their head on a swivel. You'll see Knoll, Tilly, Bynum, maybe. I think that we will see Ivan Negavon in this game. I think that he will have the opportunity to play in this game. Those guys are absolutely going to need to step up because the open side, the weak side of the floor, that's where North Carolina can a lot of times find guys. And even John Mobley Jr., Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal. If you're turning your back to the player you are guarding, they are cutting and they are scoring. They're very opportunistic in that way. We saw that, by the way. We saw Ohio State turn their back to guys against West Virginia. We'd cut, we'd relocate, and there's a layup or an open guy, one pass, open for a three. So Ohio State struggled with that a little bit defensively against West Virginia. It's something that could be very, very difficult to guard against here against North Carolina. Another point on the offense for the Tar Heels, I just call it a modern front court. This isn't your traditional back you down at center on the low block. And the four, he's not a shooter. And he's got a little less size in the center. You want him to rebound. You want to be able to score a little bit. That's not what this offense looks like. This is where we can finally open it up and talk about Caleb Wilson. I already mentioned Wilson and Visar, their ability to share the ball. But Caleb Wilson, he's a five-star freshman. Ohio State was in it until the end, or so at least we believe. Kind of, I guess is what I would say there. Averaging 19.5 points per game so far this year. That's number one on North Carolina, and it's fourth among all freshmen in the nation so far this year. He's also averaging 2.5 assists per game and 10.3 rebounds per game. That's number one in the nation among freshmen, even better than Cameron Boozer. He's also got 1.2 blocks per game. He's shooting at 55% from the field and 29% from deep. It's not great, but as a four, you got to get your hand out there and you got to defend him there on the three-point line. He can make shots at the absolute highest difficulty. If you watch that game against Kentucky, you saw him catch the ball on the block, back to the basket. He then rises up in the air, twists and contorts 180 degrees to face the rim, and he makes the shot. The acrobatic shots that Caleb Wilson can make, the way that he's obviously got the size, but the athleticism as well. He can rise up and make shots in the paint and at the free throw line that you just aren't used to seeing players make. Everyone knows how good this freshman class is, but Caleb Wilson is right there at the top in terms of special talents in the freshman class. His ability to shot make and to make tough shots, to make fadeaway shots, and all those different types of things, it's really, really impressive. He's going to be a problem. He is the player that I am most concerned about in this game. Again, this is something where, as I've watched North Carolina this season, and not, I don't look at the stats until I get to here when I'm preparing for a show, because I want to watch teams first and kind of have my own opinions and then see if the numbers confirm my hypotheses. And the numbers confirm my hypotheses here. Caleb Wilson can score. He's an excellent scorer. He's a productive scorer for North Carolina, and he's the player that I'm most concerned about when it comes to the North Carolina offense. I feel very passionately I want Amari Bynum on Caleb Wilson as much as possible. It's nothing against Brandon Knoll, but you look at Bynum, the motor he plays with, the physicality he plays with. He just kind of gets down there in the paint, and I feel like it would be the meme of, what's the Mario character with the mushroom on his head? Whatever name that young lad has, the meme where like everything is shaking and he's running around or something. That's what I feel every time I see Amari Bynum in the paint. We're just everyone is shook as he just thumps and thumps and thumps his way. And yet at the same time, it feels like he plays kind of light-footed. It's just the motor, the physicality, the strength that he has. I love it. And I want to see him on Caleb Wilson, because that type of defense has bothered Caleb Wilson this year. When he's got the ability to kind of finesse his way up to make shots, he's really good. When, especially defensively too, when Caleb Wilson gets back down and he goes up against a physical threat, that's where he struggles a little bit. So I want Amari Bynum on him as much as possible. That doesn't mean Brandon Knoll can't guard him. It doesn't mean Brandon Knoll should never guard him. But I think Amari Bynum is the matchup here for Caleb Wilson. And then you also look at this modern front court. We have to talk about Henry Visar. 16.9 points per game. That's second on the team for North Carolina. So your top 2 point scorers for North Carolina are your starting power forward and your starting center. He's shooting it 45.8% from the three-point line. By the way, that's second on the team. And he's taking 2.8 three-pointers per 40 minutes. So he's probably going to get a three-pointer up in this game. If you just look at his game log, which I'll take a look at now with you together, his three-point attempts over the past, let's go since the Michigan State game, it's been 2, 1, 3, 3, and 3. He's only got one game this year where he hasn't attempted a three-pointer. That was a game against, which game is this? A logo I don't recognize, which would be North Carolina Central. And in that game, he played 24 minutes, which would be good for the least amount of minutes he's played in a game this season. So this is a player who's going to get some three-pointers up in this game. He stands at 7 feet tall. He can play out on the perimeter, as well. Here's the thing in this matchup. Christoph Tilly is going to be on him, of course. Christoph Tilly has more weight on Visar, which means that I would assume he can probably handle him in the paint. I know a lot of fans really talk about Christoph Tilly and the toughness that he needs to play with. He's going to need to play with toughness in this game. Obviously, you need to play with toughness in every game, but he's going to be playing. He's going to be matching up against a guy who plays very, very similarly to him. So I wonder if that's a strength for Christoph Tilly. Tilly knows what himself wants to do, he himself. So if he's playing a guy who plays pretty similarly to him, maybe there's a defensive comfort there as he guards him. So it's a modern front court. These are guys who can score from the three-point line and in, and it's going to be a tough guard for Ohio State, like I've said. Last point here on the offense for North Carolina, their 2-point offense, really, really good. They're 70% at the rim, 46% from the mid-range. Paint number's not great, but overall, inside the three-point line, they're really, really good. They're shooting at 58% from the 2-point line right now. You look at Visar, you look at Wilson, you look at Jaron Stevenson, a name you should probably remember if you've listened to this show for any amount of time. Kyan Evans and others, they can all hurt you from inside the three-point line. But I wonder if this is a double-edged sword at times for North Carolina due to just the lacking three-point production that you've got so far this year from the Tar Heels. Gotta wonder, is this a more beatable offense? Does it feel more one-dimensional and make North Carolina more beatable as a whole because they've not been able to consistently make 3-pointers so far this season. And if we look at the 3-point production in their big games this year, which I will find for you here in just a second, against Kentucky, they made 6 3-pointers. Against Michigan State, they made 4. Against Kansas, they made 8 while shooting less than 30%. Against whomst is this? Is this Manhattan? No, not even close. This is USC Upstate. Against USC Upstate, they had a good 3-point shooting game, and that one at 43.5%. They made 10 out of 23 3-pointers in that game, but they only have 3 games this year making 10 or more 3-pointers. So this is a similar offense to Ohio State. I don't think North Carolina runs away from the Buckeyes in this game using the 3-point shot. They may run away from Ohio State in this game, but they're not going to do it using the shot from deep. So that said, this is a really, really good North Carolina offense as a whole. They're going to be tough to guard in this one. Let's get into the North Carolina defense now, which is more impressive than the offense. They're allowing 64.1 points per game so far this season. They've got a 95.1 defensive rating, allowing 37% of shots from the field to go in. If that's a 3-point number, that's not very good. A field goal number, though, that's absolutely insane. And 30.3% of shots from deep go in against North Carolina's defense. They're 25th in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency. This is a North Carolina defense that just clamps you anywhere from the field. It's like being in a straitjacket. You can wiggle and wiggle and wiggle. For 2 straight hours, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to get any additional space. This is a cohesive North Carolina unit. Only 8 teams defend the field better than North Carolina so far this season. The only 2 Power 5 teams that are better than North Carolina from the field are Duke and Michigan so far this year. So among the best in the nation defending shots from the field this season. However, there's a caveat here that I will mention that I think is really important. The 3 worst games that North Carolina has had this season from the field were the 3 good teams that they played. They allowed 52% of shots against Michigan State to go in. They lost that game. 45% of shots against Kansas were made, and 43% of shots against Kentucky went in. This also happens to be, while it's 3 of their 4 Power 5 teams, it's the 3 teams that you would say are obviously on an NCAA tournament level here for the Tar Heels that they've played. So those numbers from the field are great. However, when you look at the high quality competition they played in those games, they've not been as good. If Ohio State shoots 45% from the field in this game, they've got a good chance to win it, I think. Ohio State, offensively, they're 13th in the nation in effective field goal percentage. That's better than all 3 of the opponents that North Carolina has played. Ohio State shooting it better from the field than Michigan State, better than Kansas, and better than Kentucky as well. And if you look at Ohio State just from the field, if you just want to take that number, they're shooting it from the field at 51.2% so far this year. That's 96th percentile in college basketball, or 15th in the nation. So Ohio State shots from the field, very, very good. North Carolina has faltered a little bit against high quality competition, and they haven't played on offense like Ohio State so far this year. And if there's North Carolina fans who find this show, I wouldn't be surprised if there were. They're going to see that and say, Ohio State's the best offense we played. Yeah, right. Numbers wise, Ohio State is going to end up being the best offense that North Carolina has played so far this year. So on the surface, it looks like a strength on strength matchup, but there is an area for opportunity here for Ohio State. And if you go on the flip side and you look at, well, North Carolina's numbers are worse against high quality competition. That's probably the case for Ohio State. It's kind of true. It's also kind of not. The splits are not as bad, at least for Ohio State, against good competition compared to bad competition. They had their worst shooting game in the season against Notre Dame, but their 4th best shooting game of the season was against Northwestern. The rest of those top games, Illinois, West Virginia, games like that, kind of fall somewhere in the middle. So I think this could be, while it looks like a strength on strength matchup, I think it could be one that Ohio State wins. The other point for the North Carolina defense here, they've got the number 1 average height in the nation, according to Ken Palm. I think this is a really big deal. However, Illinois sitting at number 3, according to Ken Palm. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that Ohio State played Illinois, 2 games ago at this point? So with that in mind, maybe Ohio State will be somewhat used to the height and length that North Carolina will play with in this game. If you look at the players with the highest minutes played so far this season, Visar, 7 foot. Caleb Wilson, 6'10". Luka Bogovac, 6'6". Jaron Stevenson, 6'10". Kyan Evans, 6'2". Okay. So he's short. He's a short king. Jonathan Powell, 6'6". Derek Dixon, 6'5", and Zayden High, 6'10". So the shortest player that you heard outside of Evans stands at 6'5", and he gets the second least minutes. He will play in this game. All of these players have played 11 games, all 11 games for North Carolina so far this season. But outside of that, the real true minutes getters, if you take out the Colin Whites, for example, you're looking at the shortest player being 6'6", and that's Jonathan Powell. Of course, Ohio State players know that name. So it's going to be tough for Ohio State offensively to kind of see through the forest of target players in this one. They're also 96th percentile in defensive rebounding rate, thanks in part due to the size that they've got. Block production's fine. It's nothing special. And North Carolina also, they don't foul. They only have a 14.8 personal fouls given per game mark right now. So not anything that we think Ohio State will be able to take advantage of there necessarily, but I feel like fouls are just so inconsistent from game to game. They're also excellent defending the 2-point shot. This is another where, again, I say strength on strength, potentially number 3 in 2-point percentage. Ohio State's offense has dropped a little bit, but they're still number 6. So it's number 3 against number 6 in 2-point percentage here, a strength on strength matchup. All right. Let's get into some keys to the game now. I have one. I just have one key for Ohio State. I think there's a way Ohio State can win this game, and I think it's pretty simple. You got to let the backcourt cook in this game. North Carolina is built solidly. They're a very, very good team, but they're built by their front court. I think Bruce Thornton, he's going to have his chance to hit threes in this game, especially if he's as aggressive as he was in that game against Illinois. You look at Tayson Chapman, I think there's a chance you're going to see a little bit more of Tayson Chapman in this game. And if you do, I think Ohio State is going to want him to be aggressive offensively. And you're going to see him take some shots. You're going to see him try to create just like he did against West Virginia. And the green light will be switched to on for Tayson Chapman. I think in this game, can he get the Buckeyes offense rolling there in the backcourt? John Mobley Jr., he's obviously a very, very tough guard. Devin Royal the same way, just for different reasons. But these Buckeyes in the backcourt, if you can hit some threes, if you can create off the dribble, if you can use a skip pass to a skip pass, find a guy open, and then find Christoph Tilly on a duck in down to the paint for a quick, easy 2-point shot to be made, then you're looking at Ohio State having a real ability to win this game. I think Ohio State, it also means pushing the tempo for the Buckeyes offense. If you played the greatest video game of all time, Undisputed, there's a lot of things that are opinions in this world. This is not. This is just a fact. NCAA Basketball 10 is the best video game ever created. If you played that, you know in the pregame, you could select what's my pace going to be. Am I going to be up tempo, the like normal or balanced, or half court? Ohio State and Jake Diebler, they just got to toggle all the way to the right and go up tempo. Buckeyes got to play up tempo in this one. North Carolina, by the way, is 4th percentile in pace so far this season. So they're not all that inclined to really run up and down the floor, while Ohio State, I think, can win this game by doing that. I think Ohio State has to win this game starting from the outside. They got to win this game from the perimeter, outside in, and that's going to be their best opportunity to win this game. That's my only key to the game for Ohio State in this one. I do have some questions here before I get into my prediction. So there's a lot of things I talked about on the previous show this week, which if you haven't listened to that yet, I would give that a listen. I think there's a lot of really, really good stuff in there, but I talked a lot about the Ohio State rotation, the starting lineup. I've got questions here. Is Amari Bynum going to start? I would say that it's probably something that they're thinking about at this point against North Carolina. Will Amari Bynum get the start over Brandon Knoll? Or maybe Christoph Tilly. He comes off the bench and Brandon Knoll slides to the 5. It's a possibility. What's the rotation going to look like? Is Tayson Chapman going to get more run in this game? Is Amari Bynum going to start? Are you going to see Amari Bynum and Brandon Knoll in there together with Knoll playing the 5? I think those are all questions we have. But overall, I've got a lot of questions about what the Ohio State rotation looks like. They want to be better in the first half. They want to show the ability to score quickly. and they want to show the ability to go out and get a lead on North Carolina because they have not been a good first half team this year. So they're looking at finding rotations to where they can be successful in that area. Another question I've got, this is on the North Carolina time side, is Seth Trimble. Is he going to play in this game? So he returned to practice this week. He's expected to return this month. Hubert Davis said earlier in a press conference this week that he's progressing nicely. This is a guy who only adds to the North Carolina's ability to enforce defensively. Obviously, he helps offensively as well, but this would be a huge get for them, a senior guard that they can get back dealing with injury. My guess and what it sounds like he there's a really good shot that he's going to play in this game. So if he does, that adds another element for Ohio State to have to deal with against North Carolina. What does the BIP say in this game? Well, the BIP, which has been more successful over the past 5-ish days or so, I'm not ready to start posting banger bets again yet. I want to see a little bit more consistency here, but it's been better. The BIP in this game has North Carolina as a slight favorite at minus 2.5. It's got the total at 152.5 points in this game. So when those numbers out, you can make a play if you'd like. If you wouldn't like, that's fine too. But just be advised that this is where the numbers are. And unless North Carolina is favored by 5.5 or Ohio State's favored by 2.5, there's no play on the spread here. You're probably not going to have a play on the spread, but just so you know, be advised. Look, there's two schools of thoughts here. Okay, I have an option. I have two options. Do I decide, you know what, this offseason I said North Carolina is not very good, and I be a man that's not of principle, and I just change my opinion. I have my take, and then I just say, you know what, things got hard, and I'm trashing that take. I'm going to take North Carolina to win this game. That's an option for me, but it's not a great option. The other option, which isn't good either, is I could just be wrong. I could keep my opinion the exact same, and I could say that I think Ohio State's still going to win this game. But in my heart, if I don't think Ohio State's going to win and I end up being wrong, then that hurts too. So the question is, what do I do here? And here's what I'll say. Ohio State comes to play in the CBS Sports Classic. I don't know if we're aware of this, but Ohio State does, in fact, come to play in the CBS Sports Classic. Overall, they are, where's my stat here? I think 6-4 all time in the CBS Sports Classic. That's true. Let me give you some results here. So they ran Kentucky out of the building last year in the CBS Sports Classic, fresh off of wiping their blood off the walls against Auburn. Then they just went out and beat Kentucky. I think it was like 85-60 or something like that. In 2023, they beat UCLA 67-60. They took North Carolina to the brink. Remember that game? Shout out Bryce Sensabaugh in 2022. They did lose in 2020. They won 77-70 over UCLA. In 2019, they won against Kentucky. And in 2018, they won against UCLA. 6-4 all time in the CBS Sports Classic is Ohio State. But of their past 7, they've won 6. And I worded that very, very specifically. Enough with the brain rot, folks. Come on. Here's the problem. They've won 6 of their last 7 in the CBS Sports Classic. They've been really, really good. The problem is that has nothing to do with this year's game. It's like checking the weather for last December and then planning what you're going to wear as if that's today's forecast. That's not how this works. Today, it's supposed to rain a bunch, be advised. So it doesn't really matter, but I don't care that it doesn't matter. Ohio State comes to play in the CBS Sports Classic. I'm going to be a man of principle. I've decided, as for me and my podcast, I'm going to be a man of principle. I would rather keep my prediction the same and pick Ohio State and still be wrong than change my opinion, which is bad, and also still have the potential of being wrong. So I don't know. I think somehow, some way, Ohio State finds a way to win this game. I think especially in the backcourt, if Bruce Thornton comes up and he has a big game, if Amari Bynum can be the stopper to Caleb Wilson, you've got a real shot to win this game, even if North Carolina does get Seth Trimble. This is not me being a homer. I've picked against Ohio State multiple times this year, but in this one, it just feels like every year Ohio State has that one game in December against a high-quality opponent that they come out of nowhere and they win. And I think it's going to be this game for Ohio State this December. The Buckeyes are going to knock off the Tar Heels and get that win in the non-conference that supports their resume that they so badly need. So I'll take the Buckeyes to win this game. If I'm wrong, it's the trash can. It's the trash can's fault that fell on me. All right, so this game tips off Saturday at 3 p.m. We will be back probably Saturday evening with a recap show where I will go through my takeaways, my breakdown, my thoughts overall on the game for Ohio State against North Carolina. So again, if you made it this far, you got to make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you're subscribed and you find the show on Twitter and you listen and that's it, or you listen on Apple or Spotify all the time, and it gives you the episode because it knows you like it, but you're not subscribed. Just make sure you're subscribed. Open up your phone. If you're listening on your laptop, maybe an iPad, don't care. Make sure you're subscribed. Please do that for me. Make that my Christmas wish that comes true. All right. Appreciate being here today. Appreciate you listening more than you'll ever understand. Until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.